So hello, we're now in Derby Museum and Art Gallery in the archaeological section, and I've got a few minutes to show you a few things, so hopefully you'll get some of the signals, and if you don't see this from the beginning you can go back and watch it, and I'll try to do 30 minutes. That should give me enough time to do what I've got to do afterwards. So yeah, I think this is a lovely museum. I've been here so many times in my time, but there's a few really amazing things we can look at. And as people join, I will demonstrate. So this is the reconstruction of the Viking warrior's head in this video of the Repton giant. And this was on a TV show called The Blood of the Vikings. And it's a fascinating TV show. In fact, when this was presented and rewarded to the museum, I was there dressed as a Viking because at the time the RWB Viking group was still going. So I remember that event very well, and me and Egil were there, and Tirkir and Neo and some of the other Vikings. And this is a little chamber talking about the early Anglo-Saxon period of Derby, and we have some more things we can look at here. So the first thing here is a pair of bronze wrist clasps, because they used to wear them to tie up the sleeves, and I find that to be fascinating. Got a lovely couple of brooches and a primera ring, which I won't mind making one day and reproducing. A couple of a pair of ring brooches. They will be annular brooches because they're solid and not penannular, which have a missing segment. That's the difference between a penannular and an annular brooch. And this round thing is a bronze mirror, would have been very shiny back in the day. And then we have the ring here from a purse, and that is ivory. An ivory ring from an elephant's tusk. So again, that also demonstrates and shows you how far the trade routes were in those days. And that would be more associated with women wearing that rather than men. And number 13 is an iron spear, very corroded. And it's got a very small segment at the bottom where it would have joined the shaft, or maybe got into a shaft. I think this would have gone on a shaft myself, but the spears I have are much larger than that. But again, that's quite fascinating. And number 15, you can see, is an iron shield boss with rivets, and that's the Anglo-Saxon type with the bit on the front. And I think that probably would have been used in combat to hook a shield, possibly, and some of them would have had spikes. So again, if you get in charge by somebody with a shield with a spike on the end of a shield boss, then that could be quite lethal. And we have a couple of examples of Anglo-Saxon pottery. Again, that's really fascinating, and it's amazing what condition they are, considering they're from the 6th and 7th century. And then we have a small segment of, looks like a bronze square-headed brooch from the 6th century. That's been found at Ingleby in Derbyshire, and of course Ingleby is also famous for having a stone cross. And one of these days we will go and visit.
You reckon?
And this gives you a bit of the information. In fact, I'll read it to you. So, Anglo-Saxon burials. During the 6th century, a group of Anglo-Saxon settlers was living near the ruins of a Roman fort at Little Chester, and they buried their dead outside the east gate of the fort. The men were warriors and were buried with their weapons, spears with iron heads and wooden shields with iron bosses. One grave included a small tankard or drinking horn with a bronze-mounted rim. The women were buried with their beads of glass and amber and bronze brooches and wrist clasps, which fastened to their clothing. On the belts they wore amulets, knives and keys, because ladies always had the keys and were always in charge of the keys. And as a Viking man and husband, you put your wealth onto your wife to demonstrate how wealthy you were. One had a purse with a frame made of elephant's ivory, which we've seen already, and I'll show you again, and a large bronze bowl, which was probably a treasured possession. Unless otherwise stated, the objects shown here are all from the 6th century graves found at Little Chester, and that's basically where the Romans built one of their forts. These finds show that the Anglo-Saxons were skilled craft people with widespread trading contacts, which is so true. The Anglo-Saxons also cremated their dead at this period. The ashes were buried in pottery urns, which were often decorated with patterns impressed with small wooden stamps. Several cemeteries of this kind have been found in Burton area of the Trent Valley. And this talks about Anglo-Saxon settlements. So although there is much evidence of cemeteries of the early Anglo-Saxons, their settlements are much less known. At Cathholm near Burton-on-Trent was a large village of timber frame houses. In contrast was settlement of these small sunken huts known as Grubenhouses. That's a sunken floor house, and were very common throughout England, and they were scattered amongst the fields at Willington. And you can see a demonstration on the video of a sunken floor house. In fact, if you go to Westow Anglo-Saxon Museum, you will find a Grubenhaus, and they were very common. But let's go a bit further back in time. Let's go back to the Neolithic, because prehistoric times are so important as well. So here we see a cabinet of the prehistoric finds, and a lot of these are axe heads. And of course you needed tools, and bone and horn and flint was so essential, along with wood of course. And you can see a good array of axe heads there, and also a tooth from a woolly mammoth. Then here we have more flint objects and antler objects and bone objects, because bone is very, very tough. It makes great digging tools, especially antler. So I'm talking about arrows. There's a Neolithic arrow with flint rather than steel. And again, that's also quite fascinating. Made from ash, and such an old tradition. So, and isn't history a wonderful, wonderful thing? We can see another arrow here, another arrow shaft, but with a different sort of arrowhead. This one on this side is pointy, where this one has got a flat, sharp edge, and would have a different job to do in hunting. And then we can see here some of the Neolithic and Iron Age parts as we're going a bit further in history now. We've evolved, we've gone into farming, we've gone into the Bronze Age and discovered the use of bronze. And then in this section you can see how we've discovered iron. And of course you've got the Neolithic, the Bronze Age and the Iron Age. And throughout all that age there would have been a wood age, because wood would have been used since the Neolithic, and they're still used today for handles. And then we talk about the first pottery in Derby, and this is a pottery kiln, a reconstruction. And this is from between 80 and 160 AD, so it's Roman in design and origin. And this is a reconstruction of what one would look like. Again, this structure would be made of willow, and then the willow would have been covered with clay, and then very gently, with a low amount of heat, they would have dried the kiln. And it most probably would have been in a covered outbuilding with open sides, because if this got wet by the rain, it would ruin and destroy the kiln, unless you just prepared to make one for a few weeks and then took it down or destroyed it. So I'd imagine there'll be some sort of a building which would have open sides with a roof on top to protect it. Because the idea, you make something like this, and it takes a lot of time to make one of these, you want to get a few uses out of it, as many as possible. So from that, of course, we go into the Roman period, and here we have, and I've got a couple of videos on this little segment of items. This is the Roman Derbyshire ware pottery. And again, it also demonstrates how clever the Romans were and what influence they had on British history and society. And again, we should honour our ancestors because we've all got a bit of Roman DNA within our blood, and Viking and Saxon and a whole mix. So this is also about demonstrating how we can respect and honour our past and our ancestors and keep that history going, keep that history alive, which is so important. But let's have a closer look. So you can see these are quite fascinating. And then Sam Stapleton says, so beautiful. And Sam says, yes, I'm a big fan of the spiky boss. Yeah, I mean, the only thing about the spiky bosses these days, you can't get away with reenactment with a spiky boss because of how dated. But yeah, I still want to have a shield with a spiky boss on it just to demonstrate it. But hitting a melon or something like a turnip would be more authentic. So again, we've got more items from Roman Derby, more pottery, including a pottery duck head, some gaming pieces and a dice. Of course, the dice goes back so far in history. I think it probably goes back right into the Bronze Age, I do, myself. It goes back to the time when we learnt the ability to count. But I would be curious to know what is the oldest dice in history and how far it goes back. And you can see here this really large terracotta tile, and you can see fingerprints from the person made 100 years ago. Let's have a look at our file. No, it's a dog print rather than a hand print. So, I was wrong there, and that was found in the Derby School playing field. So again, that's fascinating. Number 14 is a metal object. It's a bronze tread ring from a horse harness. And again, it's highly decorated. So again, it demonstrates that the fact that it didn't just make an object to be practical, they also made it to have decoration, to say something about your status. And again, that's quite fascinating. And we can zoom in on a few of these things. Let's just zoom in on that part, that's quite nice. And we'll zoom in on some of these gaming pieces. These would be turned on a lathe. These are bone, most of them, and then ones at the back are either stone or clay. Right, let's have a read. Bone die and bone, stone and pottery gaming pieces, and that is from Little Chester. So that's that. Now talking about the Iron Age longboat, now here you can see most of the longboat that was found, and like I said in the previous live stream, this era is 3,400 years old. You know, it's amazing to think how old it is and the condition. And these are the actual rocks that were found in the longboat and that they was transporting. So they are sandstone. So whether they was being used for construction or whether there's going to be worked and broken up and made into sharpening stones is a debate for another day. But it does demonstrate what there was moving around. And let's face it, these stones don't look light, do they? So again, and of course, it probably got, you know, it probably sank. It was either too heavy or water got on board and it sank, and then it got covered over with sediment and then became trapped, and then was found in a quarry in South Derbyshire. And if I can ever locate the location, I will go down and film it. And we've already seen one segment in the Museum of Making from this logboat. Yeah, excuse me if I say longboat, because I'm a Viking, I'm used to saying that. But again, that's just an amazing, amazing thing. But let's go back and look at some of these other display cabinets. And we've got about another 15 minutes, so I'll try to speed up, so I'll show you something else before I go. So here we have another Roman segment. I find that about that's a Roman lead ingot. I mean, look at the lead in that, that's amazing. And it's one or two, it's a leg pig ingot, found in Yeaverley in Derbyshire. And it's got an inscription, but I don't know what the inscription says. Socorium lividivid. Product of Lutter-Durancin Pradas, British lead from the lead silver works. So that's the name of the manufacturer who manufactured that ingot. And we do have some spearheads. We have a tool here. So number 8 is an iron spade sheath. Would have gone over a wooden construct to make the spade last. And we've got number 7, and that is, and you'll find that fascinating, Sam, that is a iron pig head. And it's quite small. That's only going to be, 7 inches long, So it's not very big. And in the back here we have a couple of keys, Roman keys, and also this very nice knife. Of course, the Vikings and Saxons would have had knives like that. And then number 9 is an iron socketed candle holder. So it's got 3 legs, so it stands upright, and you could rotate it around for whichever candle you're putting in it. The candle was broken in this case, but that's quite fascinating, and I'd love to make one of them. And then number 10 is an iron band from a pipe, because they use pipes. Look at some of these items. So I will come back and do a more thorough live stream. But yeah, and then Repton says, have a bash in the boat. Well, I think somehow if I got inside the boat, I'll be towed off and banned from the museum. I'd love to do that, but I think I'll be pretty much banned. So, of course, we have a swastika here from the Roman period, which again demonstrates how old that symbol is. And we shouldn't associate it with the Nazis, we should associate it with the history where it comes from, and India and Persia and all those countries as well, and take it back as a symbol and disassociate it with the Germans. And then we have a statue of the god Mercury. I know that off by heart. This is more Roman stuff, so we have 2 little bronze bracelets for a child, found in a child's grave, more pottery. Here we have a pottery head of a woman with elaborate hairstyle. Again, that's fascinating. And then we have a lot of lovely items here. I'll do a quick zoom up. I'm trying to get as much in as I can. And then Sam says, yeah, I like that a lot. They are such skilled blacksmith. I don't know, we give them enough credit. And then Sam says the Native Americans here use it as well for the circle of life. But here are just some of the amazing objects. The bottom objects are belt mounts and the buckle, and I think that's fascinating. I've always wanted a Roman style belt with belt mounts. Probably the one that's a bit wider. And here we have a sole of a Roman shoe. And then in this segment just goes into cookery. If I get too close, you will start getting these liney effects from the lights. And then here, which you will see some of it, there's a big window behind it, but this is what Derby used to look like. And then we come into some of the Viking and Anglo-Saxon stoneware. We'll quickly go through them. So this is a grave cover for a grave, and this is another carved slab, or possibly from a cross. And then we have some Anglo-Saxon sculpture. This is a part of a cross, a shaft from a cross. Now this thing here is amazing. This is St. Ortmund's sarcophagus. So this is his tomb from St. Ortmund. And I've literally laid in that dressed as a Viking once. And I've always been curious to where the lid's gone. Is it yet to be found? But the decoration on the side is amazing. And then we come to this one here, which is another grave cover. And you can still see the pattern. I will go around and film individual videos on these. I have done, but not edited them. And we'll go back to this Viking cabinet, and again you can see the Viking sword from the Repton giant. We'll zoom in, we'll look at the Viking Repton Thors hammer, and that's the original one with the 2 bead, the blue and the white bead. So again, that's fascinating. We've got another, and this is a hogback tombstone grave cover because it was designed to be made to look like a hog. Then we have the Repton stone here, and this is really fascinating. First of all, you can see the man in the carving is wearing chain mail. He's riding a horse. It looks like he's got a gambeson underneath. And then you can see here across this width of his stomach, he's got a sea axe. And this is one of the very few demonstrations in carving of a figure wearing a sea axe. And this is meant to be King Athelbald of the Mercians. And of course, he's also got a shield in his hand. You can just see the chainmail. Of course, the links are really big on his body to demonstrate that rather than having really fine. So that's also quite fascinating. And we're going to the medieval part of Derby. It's a little bit later for us. And then we've got some medieval tiles and that really cool medieval statue. But we've still got a few more minutes. Let's go and have a look and see what it looks like in the other part of the museum about getting people on. So these are a lot of stuffed animals. Let's just move the camera that way. Literally, I could spend all day filming in here and still not cover it all. So we're going to go into the art gallery of Joseph Wright. So look at some of his amazing pictures. Hello, how are you? Well, not too bad. I'm just live streaming, so showing your art off.
No worries.
I figured out your internet today. And how are you? Have a good day?
Yeah, doing all right.
Yeah. So these are the paintings of Joseph Wright. We'll look in here very quickly, because I will come back and do a much longer live stream. Normally, whenever I come in here, there's always a coach party turns up, and then you get 40 people in here. But some of these paintings are really amazing. Well, they're all amazing. And of course, we both share the same surname. So this will be very quick, because we don't have long left. I've got to be somewhere. But this is one of my favourite paintings. That's really amazing. And he did a lot of portraits. And we have this one where some people are raiding a tomb, you know, probably nicking all the silver jewellery and rings and so forth. And this guy in the back here, don't I look like my brother Mark? It's a spitty image of him. I'm going to take a picture of it one of these days and share it with him. And this is probably the most famous Joseph Wright painting there is, I'd say, and the one over there, which I'll show you next. So if you do come to Derby, make sure you do visit the, Derby Museum and Gallery, and come to look around the Joseph Wright paintings. I think this could be the most famous painting. I don't know. No, I think the other one's most famous. But again, it's the detail. Just amazing. And that's from 1771. So during the time when America was, going through the American Wars of Independence and during that period of enlightenment, then you'll see some of the portraits, and he filmed lots of these. Well, not filmed, painted. And there's some really famous characters in here, including Erasmus Darwin and Thomas Barrow, Jedediah Strutt. It's really famous in Derby. Stunning. So let's just try to figure out. I'll show you one more place. You take care. Thank you. So we're now going into the soldier's story. And again, there's another association with the museum because Eggle or Simon used to work here. for many, many years. And the amount of times they used to come and say hello to Simon Thorson at the museum and have a little chat and catch up. So very much associated with the channel and that history. But let's flip the camera around and we'll just show you some of the military things in here. Again, I don't have enough time to do it justice really. But there's some amazing artefacts in here covering British military history. You know, from the Boer War to World War I and World War II to the modern day. And this kind of gives you a feel what a trench would look like. And I don't know whether this would work. So there's a little periscope and you've got to imagine you're not really giving us the right resolution to do it, but that's like having a view of what's above a trench. And of course it's also associated with my family history because my granddad was at the Battle of the Somme. And you've got these amazing cabinets with all these amazing military objects in them. And then this board talks about some of the medals that British soldiers have won and where they've won. And, you know, all over the world, from Asia to Africa, people have won medals. And, you know, you got sidearms and pistols and the everyday items a soldier would have carried, because those items are so important. And that's a really cool knife. That's must be Indian. So it's a Khyber knife. Wouldn't mind owning one of them. So yeah, and there's just shows you some of the medals and some of the Victoria crosses that have been won by people from Derby and the area. And look at that for a dress uniform. All that splendid silver lace. Well, they don't make things like that anymore. But I will come back to this place and film a much longer video. So we've got a couple more minutes left, so we'll just go down here. Of course, the Shorewood Foresters are the local regiment. That's what my granddad was in. We'll just have a look in here, because there's lots of art in here, and amazing items from all over the world. This is really relatively new. I think I've only been in here once. But there are some really nice weapons, remember this. So these are cool again. Of course, you've got another Khyber knife, you've got a Poto sword, a Gono axe, a sawfish sword, and a sulfiger sword. Slightly dark in here though. So this is all traditional items from across the world. So yeah. So it's a very quick tour. There's a lot of new things to look at. Somewhere in here we've got the mummies, but I don't know where they are. From Egypt. No, not been here before. So this is the rebels in Derby. So this is like the recreation of the room where Body Charlie would have stayed in Derby when all the Scottish clansmen came down. This is part of the Jacobite Rising of 1745. It gives you that kind of a feel. So again, demonstrates the history of Derby and talks about the rebels in Derby and the 45th and Derby. That's probably the 45th Regiment, I think. So again, we'll come back and try to film that in more detail. And then we have some really interesting busts and statues. And if we're lucky, if I got it right, we may know, well, right, so perhaps this is where they used to have the Egyptian mummies, but they don't seem to have them anymore. It also demonstrates what a grand place this is. What happened to the Egyptian mummies? Where are they located?
They're in the Egyptian exhibition on floor 2.
Floor 2,
Yeah,
right.
if you go to by the entrance,
Yes,
it's that left on the staircase that goes to the top.
right.
Yeah, it's
Well,
on for another 2 weeks, the exhibition.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's where the mummified people are.
right. And then they're going back to the normal place.
I'm not sure, they might actually come in here, we're not sure where they'll be relocated.
Yeah.
But that's the curators.
Yeah, my friend used to work here, Simon.
Okay, right,
Yeah.
yeah, no, Simon, okay.
Yeah, you know he passed away, don't you?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he passed away last year. He got, because I'm his old friend for like 25 years,
Right,
and he's a part of my YouTube channel, was Simon.
see, right.
We're both dressed as Vikings. No, he got a foot infection, ended up having sepsis, and just suddenly passed away last year.
I didn't know it was me.
Yeah, but we are remembering on the channel, we have, because he goes by the name of Thorson, we have an Thorson Day every 9th of the month.
Okay.
And I reckon I can keep his legacy going for about 10 to 15 years with videos I never published.
Okay.
So his memory's going to live on.
What's your channel?
Oh, Northworthy Sagas and Stories. You know, Northworthy Saxon name of Derby.
Oh.
You just type in Northworthy Sagas and you'll find us. And we've done a lot of storytelling and a lot of historical content. Some of it's quite academic and some of it's quite fun. So,
Fantastic.
and
Yeah, I'm sorry about Simon.
I'll do my bit to put the museum on the map and to keep you going. You take care. Yeah, so the mummy is on the second floor, and I don't think I'm going to have time for that, so I need to get going. So we'll end this live stream. Well, thank you very much for watching, and I will come back and live stream again, because now I know I can do it in the museum, and that's wonderful. Take care. Have a nice weekend, my friend. So I'll just say goodbye. I'll say it in the archaeological department because it makes sense. So thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like and share it. And please check out all our content on the storytelling and the folk tales and the historical content and the weapons content. And if you're not subscribed, then please do subscribe. And I'll just finish this on the Repton Thors hammer. And see you in the next video.